custom block effect earlier, I could have the leaves only emit from the surface instead of somewhere through like the inside the block itself. And in that case, you were seeing like some awkward collisions and stuff. But if I did it right, I would have used surface only and directed them. Okay, so let's see. I start off steady and instant. I guess I should show off another shape, but it's kind of hard to demonstrate the shape. What do you think, Liz?
You could set up one of the different textures, just so it's not a box. But I think that as far as like the shape and the point, I think it's worth. It's good enough to just mention that you can spawn them in a circle, in a box, or really commonly in a point.
Yeah, generally, if you're going to be manually emitting particles, you're going to pick point, and you're probably going to want to use like Molang. So if I do something like, let's see, all of these fields, almost everything that you see here supports numbers or Molang. So I can just type like math.random 0, I should switch to integer, 0 or 1. And now, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to do an instant with 1. Okay, this is pretty easy to see. Whoops, 1 second. All right. You can see that every time I hit the play button, the particle is going to emit from either like the origin at 0, 0, 0 or one block above at 0, 1, 0. And that's because I set the location of the emitter to be either 0 or 1 randomly. And that offset is evaluated per particle. So if I did a steady rate of 5, I did that, you can see that they're distributed for each particle. You can also set the other fields to this to align to the vertices of a cube. And I can set this to 35. And you can see clearly they align with the vertices of a cube because it's either going to be 0 or 1 for each coordinate. So yeah, point is extremely important. And if you're doing like anything with Molang, usually you don't want to like combine Molang with like the different shapes. You're just either going to innately use the shapes themselves, or you're going to offset them using point with Molang. Doesn't Snowstorm accept any vanilla texture?
I'm not sure.
I don't remember how to do this.
If it doesn't, are you in the web or the VS Code version? I guess the web, right?
Yeah. Do I have a texture? Oh man, I don't think I have a texture available.
That's fine. I mean, you can keep using the example.
Yeah, I can just.
You could just point out that you can pick any texture you want. You should generally pick a texture that's pretty small because particles can get expensive. And then you can UV animate them. And there's good examples in the vanilla packs as well. If you look at a particle like the campfire smoke, that's a UV animated texture. You have a lot of control there.
Yeah, see, it does accept at least that one. So you can implement like the default like texture / particles. But when you place the particle, this is like an entire like sprite sheet. So every single emission is going to yield like the entire particle, which is not what you are probably looking for. To actually like set something particular, let's see, how about the bubble? Let's target. If you can see here, I don't know, it's probably pretty small. In the sprite sheet, there's this bubble on the left side, and so we're going to target those coordinates. The texture size is important to set because that's how, like, if you've ever implemented like a geometry file, that's how it knows how to like map the UVs. So we're going to set the texture start to 0, 16, and texture size. Each of these sprites is 8 by 8. Let's see if we can get a bubble. There we go. So that's how we like sliced through the map, because in this map at 0, 8, which is right here, to 8, 8 in size, selects that bubble. And there you go. And if you want to animate it, They have a this is per particle. They have an animated like flipbook system here.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
yeah, it's really great.
You can probably animate it right now and just make it spaz out, right? Picking the different 16 by X particle squares.
Like, let's see. Yeah, I could just make it
You just
spaz
get
out.
an 8x8 step and then like some non-zero FPS.
Yeah, let me
That'll
see
be
if
like
I
a
have
diagonal. That'll be like a diagonal cut.
stretch to lifetime.
No, you need to set the FPS from 0 to like 5.
Yeah, I think Estringer was saying something about this. Like, if you actually
excuse me, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Do these cause performance issues sometimes in worlds on Minecraft?
Man, I put in thousands upon thousands of them. I mean, I have a decent computer, but it's really not like elite tier. I have like a 2070 with an i7. If you're on like a mobile phone, I imagine that even 100 particles is going to make your device cry. But I mean, in general, you can get away with a lot. And additionally, I don't know that we're going to be able to go over this, but there are even some advanced queries you can do if you really need to like handle, if you need to think about performance considerations. There's a, what is it, like query.emitter world particles. Let me see.
Well, he's looking that up.
Offhand? Okay.
No, I don't. But I would add
answer.
that particles are generally one of the lightest subsystems within Minecraft. So
each
obviously,
particle is like a
anything
floating
you
texture.
yeah, exactly. Anything you add into Minecraft is going to cause it to run a bit slower. But if you compare particles to entities, for example, or I believe even blocks, they really are performant.
Yeah.
So I would view them as a cheap way of adding extra quality into your map without too much performance cost.
If you can get away with like using particles for something, absolutely do, because they're very lightweight. Even if they're animated, and even if you have some crazy things like collision and stuff going on. All right, yeah, there it is, passing out. Let me. That's a little too much because they're overlapping. Let's see this. You can see how each particle is animating, and what Litz got me to do was essentially I set the start the same as before, where it's like the bubble, right? Actually, let me turn the FPS down so you can actually see what's going on, and set the max age to like 5, and then I'm going to set the rate to 1. Okay. There we go. You can see it flipping through each of the textures. And if you could see on, can I just open this in a new tab? Will Safari like freak out? It's somewhat visible. Unfortunately, it's not as crisp. But I started up here, and it's going down 8 by 8 on this texture map. There, and then there, and then there as the origins. And then it's 8 by 8 every time. So it's like the bubble, and the flame, then the sparkle, and then the villager head or whatever. What is this even used for? I've seen this so many times. I have no idea what it's used for in vanilla.
That's a good question. I don't know.
I mean, it's just there like so many other things. But yeah, so if I actually wanted to like use one of the animations from this, I would select, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's just like 10. And then so that's UV start is 80. And then we're going to step it 8 and then 0. All right, let's see. That's so slow. And let's do that. All right. There we go. Now you can kind of see it sparkle. I think I can even get it to loop here too, to where it won't just die at the end. Or, I need to set a max frame. There we go. Yeah, you can have it animate like back over itself once it reaches the last frame, which is really helpful when you just want to like play, especially like sparkles or like puffs of smoke or stuff like that. I'm sure that we would have a group of people that are like texture elitists that would implement everything as like its own like frame. But if you just want to be cheap, this is always nice. yeah, just loop back over it.
Speaking of explosions, do we want to try and get some movement into the particles?
Yeah, let's get these going. I'm just going to emit this from a single point instead of have it randomly offset. When you don't have a field in like inside Snowstorm set, it generally defaults to 0, so you can just clear it without having to worry about it. And we're gonna do an explosion. We should probably instantly emit particles. Let's say 64. Okay. If it's set to outward already, let me see what it does. Oh, I need a motion speed. There we go. All right. So what's happening here is when you use the shape type of point and you give it a direction. Oh, wow, they have this sorted so weird. This even though it's in motion, this is in the shape component. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so the direction by default for point is outward. That means that the motion vector emitted from that singular location is going to be in completely random directions, sort of like along a sphere shape. So when I give it a motion of 4, essentially you scale that vector up and you get an emission of particles in all sorts of directions from that single point. And you can see that it's still like animating, right? All the individual particles are animating. If I zoom in, you can definitely see. So you still get to retain everything, across all the particles while, controlling it from a central location and having that managed, which is the entire purpose of the emitter. So let's give it some downward acceleration. Let's see. Right there. Okay, maybe that's a little bit much. How about this? How about I offset it to be 20 in the air, and then I give it some downward acceleration. That's too high. How about 10? Excellent. There we go. You can see that each of the particles is falling down from the above offset. I'm going to slow that down a little bit. There we go. So now it doesn't just stay in place. And you can do whatever for any of these fields. So I can do negative math.random 0 to 12. Maybe not.
Didn't look like that worked.
No, it didn't.
I suppose that's also the time to mention that Snowstorm is fundamentally a simulation, and it's a really great tool, and we encourage you to use it. But it's not a one-to-one relationship to Minecraft, so it is sometimes going to do things that you don't expect. If something really isn't working out for you, try it in Minecraft. Switch that to negative 32 to 32, because then you're going to get things.
Going in all sorts of different. Yeah, of course, there's that initial speed, but yeah, there we go.
Oh, that looks awful.
Yeah, it's just all over the place. Well, it doesn't make for a good explosion, but it does highlight that, again, you can use Mojang for almost any field. And that's not just, in the simulation. Minecraft does reflect that. Minecraft does reflect that you can use Mojang almost anywhere in JSON setup for particles. There was something else I wanted to mention about the difference. I know that if you do a collision, you need to make sure to explicitly set a radius, because when you download the file from Snowstorm, Minecraft will just give you errors. So let's see, what should we do for an explosion? I don't really care to highlight rotation right now.
Why don't you give it a tint? Talk about color overlays.
Yeah, every particle can have its own color overlay. They can all be evaluated independently. But for now, I'm just going to set a color. And there we go. Now all of a sudden, the fireworks red. So what's happening is it takes the color value that you provide and it multiplies each color channel by that amount. So when you have a white particle, which if I don't want to do that. If I have the white particles here from this vanilla particle board, then whenever you apply a color to it, it's going to get colorized like pretty much completely in that color. If those were like black, then you wouldn't get anything because black is 0 and 0 times any color is going to be black still. But also you can set an expression here. And these are the different color channels, red, green, blue, and this is alpha. Alpha can only be like non-zero or non-1, I think, when you're using blend mode. Someone tell me if I'm wrong there. Go back to Discord.
Yeah, that's probably the case.
Okay. Because I actually have like 10 minutes of experience with materials. But yeah, let's see. If I set the color...
It could actually be a pretty good point to introduce the variable.particle lifetime.
Random? Oh, lifetime?
Well, yeah, because... So I think CC will show it in a second here, but there's a whole bunch of Molang. Can you pull up the Molang example sheet?
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of Molang that only exists within particles. And we have hooks into the emitter lifetime and the emitter age and the variable for the particle age. And that's a really great way to make cool effects like scale the particle down to a size of 0 as it ages. Or, for example, I think we could try to make it lerp between yellow and red, or make it more red as the particle goes on.
Yeah, so like to just get started with that, you would switch the color mode to expression. Well, actually, I can just use the gradient with the interpolant, can I?
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, this is another powerful feature. And again, this isn't just like an interface. I mean, it is, but pretty much this is how it works in the JSON too. Like this isn't just like a convenience from a snowstorm. So we could do like, for example, v.particle age over v.particle lifetime. I think I got to set the range to 1. I need to change the lifetime.
Change that lifetime way lower.
Let's see. The lifetime is right there. I can set it to. I have to set it. I'll set it to 2. There we go. So you can see how it moves from yellow to orange to red over time. And the reason that's happening is it takes your gradient from yellow to red. You should set the range to 1 because v.particle age over v.particle lifetime is going to range from 0 to 1 itself. So you take that length and it's 1, and you just set it there because the default's 0. And when the particle age is new, it's going to be yellow. And then as you get closer and closer to its death, so to speak, it's going to be 1, which is going to set it to red. And that's a great use case for gradients and interpolants. It's also something else. There was something fancy I wanted to do. I don't think Snowstorm has support for it, though. No, it doesn't have support for any of the queries. Damn. That's okay. Because you can also just set it, each channel here. So if I want the age to as you go, then, red is always going to be active. That's why it's like red at the start, and the green increases over the age of the particle. So when you need to do some it does have support for this though. Let me do this and this. So I'm giving there's 4 different particle random variables for every single particle. That means that every single particle inside an emission is going to have its own color. You can see here now it's more like, confetti. Every single color for the particles is going to be constant over its lifetime. Each one's going to be independently different from each other. And unfortunately, when you are just using a single particle effect and you're not using sub-effects, which again we'll get into later, as far as I know, using these 4 particle random variables is really the only way to make each particle have its own independent aspect. Because otherwise the effects are evaluated per frame for every single particle. So that means they're going to share a space. So as a demonstration, if I go up here, there's this these tick variables, and these are essentially reevaluated every single like client frame. So if I have like v dot n equals math dot random 0 1, okay, and do I have to put? Maybe I do. I don't know. If I set this to 1, and I set this to v dot n, I set this to 0. Let's see this like spaz out. Yeah, there we go. Every single frame, it's going to get reevaluated all collectively together as red to yellow, pretty much. And that's generally not what you want for anything. You should definitely be relying on the 4 particle random variables for stuff like that, because otherwise it's just going to spaz out. Again, just go to help, and you have like the Molang sheet, and these are all the particle specific variables. These are just useful because these are usable anywhere in Molang, but these are the math functions. Emitters also have their own randoms. So, did you try the looping emission from an entity, like sleep time and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Does that
it does what you expect?
Okay, because from absolutely nowhere else, particles, the command subparticles, can you use the sleep time or whatever? It doesn't do anything. It treats it like the steady rate. Yeah.
The thing to pay attention to with the entity integration is that it's always played in an animation, and so you're triggering the start time of the emitter. Usually,
do you
on
have
a loop.
any code? Like, I guess you could show in a second when I'm through here, because I myself am definitely interested in that as a complete noob to like entities and like models.
Well, maybe we should do what we said we'd do, which was take a particle request from the community and build it out in like 5 or 10 minutes. And then maybe once we've done that, we'll touch the rest of the fields that we haven't yet, like the size and I guess like the facing direction is one that you should cover. And then maybe when we're finished with that, we move on to the more advanced stuff like attaching it to an entity locator and the child particles with events.
Actually, yeah. Let me do.
Why don't you guys start throwing down your ideas into the particles channel?
Yeah, and let me show off at least size and the billboard real quick. Let me get rid of all this animated stuff.
You do that, and we'll gather some ideas for 2 or 3 minutes here.
All right. Let me reset all the values so that you can clearly see what's going on. Let's see. Well, that's tiny. Yeah, because it's set to there. All right. How about that? Give me a bubble. There we go. A random colored bubble every time. No, it's still green. That's because v.n isn't set. So I'm just going to set you to that. All right. So, where is it? Way up here. Okay, yeah, the size. Right now it's set to 0.2 and 0.2. I think somewhat unintuitively, particle size is like the box emitter shape considered from the center of the particle. So the actual size of the plane that the particle is in will be 0.4 times 0.4. They're half measures. But to make this more visible, I'm just going to set each one to 1. There's no automatic fitting or anything. You would have to do that through Molang. So if you stretch it out, indeed, it'll just get elongated. I think if I do like this, and then I set this to the same thing, you're going to have it shrink over time until it's dead. So transitions for particles are nice. They're like, if you're making high quality particles, you're generally going to want to transition the particle out instead of just having it blip in and out from nothingness. You can use opacity and scale the alpha value over time. Here, I'm just, changing the size. So I am having it blip in, but I'm not really just having it blip out into nothingness. I'm having it fade away, gracefully. And using the particle aids for that is a good way to fade it out. Also, I'll keep getting lost in this interface. The facing direction. Facing direction is really interesting. Rotate XYZ. Yeah, I think that's the vanilla default if you don't know one. But that means that the particle is always going to face you. No matter how I have the camera, it's always going to look like at the camera. There's also a few others. To go over direction X first. You can see that it's aligned with the let's see, the normal is the X plane, I think, when you use direction X, right? Probably. But essentially, there's no back face. So I'm running it here, and it is alive over there, but you can't see it. And that was what was happening with the Sakura leaves. When Litz was showing off my particle effect from the leaves. When they twirl and flit around in the air, then you can no longer like see their backside. If you do want two-sided like leaves or petals, there might be something you can do with materials. I don't know anything about that. Otherwise, you would have to have like multiple particles composed together, which is very complicated, unfortunately. You can set custom directions and orientations for your billboard. Direction Z is the most intuitive. There we go. Okay. So you can see like these are the positive axes, X, Y, and Z. And you can see like the particle is facing like 1, 1, 1. So it'd be like facing diagonally up and out from the origin. And that's because when you use direction Z, the direction vector that you specify at 1, 1, 1 from 0, 0, 0 to 1, 1, 1 will form a normal for the particle. So essentially that means that the particle is going to face that direction. And direction Z is definitely one of those. If you don't want the particle to like look at the player's camera, direction Z is going to be the most useful for you 9 times out of 10. I think there's one that they don't have here. Yeah, they don't have it here. There's a hidden facing direction that I found called Look At Direction, and that allows you to rotate the particle around a central axis that you specify using the using this using. Oh, it doesn't even have that support. Dang. If you specify a direction here, you can specify like a custom direction. And the axes for look at direction is specified through this direction vector. Lastly, let's see, rotate Y I think is one that I should cover. Let me change the lifetime. All right. So you can see as I rotate the camera like around the Y-axis, the green axis, it's always going to be facing me. But if I go up or down, then it does rotate appropriately. And that's because it just spins along this axis and doesn't regard the other dimensions. And that's great for if you have like something on a pole or whatever, or like rotating around a pole. You'll often see like scoreboards, or I should say leaderboards, on different like servers that you could play on. You'll see them like spin around a single axis, but still like look flat, and that's how they achieve that effect. And it really is just as simple in Snowstorm as just picking it and using it, which is great.
So do you want to try to create a particle here? We've got
a couple
of ideas here. I don't know what strikes your fancy. I think the blood particle would be sort of an easy one to get into like a production ready polish.
A blood effect.
Yeah, like a critical hit or like a death particle replacement. So just a splashy explosion that like drops to the ground. Oh, he's gone. Well, I assume he'll be back in a second here.
Discord crashed on me.
Welcome back.
Hello. Yeah, crashed. How about I'll let you show that off? Can you stream Snowstorm?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. the last thing I was asking was like exactly, the nature of the blood effect. I'm not sure I fully understand it. I want to see what you make. Maybe I'll try to like play along.
Sure.
Have my own interpretation.
You have to add so many keywords to Google to get snowstorm to pop up. Because if you just search snowstorm, you're going to get like pictures of snowstorms.
Actually, let me take a minute to read the chat. Snowstorm.io. Oh yeah.
How's that? Can you see that? I assume so. Everyone is muted. Something that CC did not show off, which I would like to, is the examples panel. There's a whole bunch of cool stuff here. And if you wanted to get super hyped up about what particles can offer, Janus has provided some pretty awesome ones. Here's a rainbow effect. So this is using a whole bunch of the stuff that CC was showing. So it changes the particle size over the lifetime. It has these color bands that are created with that overlay color. We'll just go through these really quick because I think they're great. There's a rain effect. Oh, the loading one is cool. I ignored it because it just looked like a normal button. Yeah, so just totally consider taking these and experimenting with them and changing them and then adding them to your maps because they're great fun.
Yeah, I maybe we could show it later. It doesn't really matter, but like I had the rain effect in one of the example packs I sent you, and you essentially would just like, it's evaluated using tick.json, and it runs the command checking for a tag on players. Oh, that is really cool. Actually, I've never seen that one.
Man, some of these are super high effort, It's incredible. Really.
That has to use curves, which I didn't show off. Right?
Nope, not a single curve.
Oh my gosh.
It's all the power of math. It's like not even that math. This is why math matters. Pay attention in school. Fun.
Oh man, let's.
I think that's it. No, there's a billboard. Okay, that's like Oh, so someone was asking about text. Here's a nice example of putting, well, I'll say text, but putting text on a sign. So you could use particles if you wanted in place of a custom entity or custom blocks to essentially put a texture into the world. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and I think this is actually a good place to start. When I want to create a new particle, I usually just pick the example that closely matches it. I think that's not unreasonable. So in my imagination of a blood effect, first of all, I want to get a red particle, which drops down and maybe bounces. I don't know if bouncing works in Snowstorm, but we'll try. There was also 2 or 3 requests for bounciness in particles, so we'll see if I can remember how to do that. Oh man, it's like, what's the name of the file?
Exactly.
The normal one.
Particle/particles. No, particle. Oh. No S. Yeah, /particles. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
This looks automatically load that in. Oh my.
128. Oh boy, it's like 80, right? Oh no, that's the UV size. I'm just going to try to get us a particle that looks somewhat reasonable and is hopefully animated.
Actually, I'm going to test that out while I have the chance. Unfortunately, Discord doesn't let you like stream independently on a Mac, like set Safari, so I couldn't flick back.
Okay, well, oh, this is way too high. Y'all can unmute yourselves if you want to yell at me for being wrong. I won't mind that.
So what are you looking to do?
I'm just trying to get one of the animated particles to save myself some time. There's one of these rows here. I think this explosion one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, maybe we should use this hard. So we'll go away from our blood particle. Oh, it's 8 times 8. Why is the UV start being so weird? It should be. We want this pixel.
I just tested it, and Snowstorm has like support for any of the like particle textures. So like particles.png, soul.png, and campfire smoke.png. And those are all found like in the vanilla resource pack under like textures / particle.
I can't talk. I can't.
Yeah, we can hear you. Man, where's this particle?
Like a month ago.
Wait, what are you looking for?
There we go. We're getting the heart particle.
Okay.
I decided that's less terrible than
How can you
than blood.
No, just leave.
I could just casually hear them.
So I'm just going for a splashy, punchy, instant heart explosion effect. So set this instant. That's probably way too many particles. Sorry. We need way more acceleration here.
Oh, Hunt on Doom wanted to specify that, if you set the texture size to 16, since, it's 16 by 8, you don't have to multiply by 8, just as a convenience when you're working with sprite seeds.
That's a good tip. Thanks for broadcasting that.
Uh-oh. Oh, nothing. I made a mistake. I should stream this too. Go back and forth. Okay.
Man, I haven't used Snowstorm in too long. I'm searching around for fields.
Me too. You saw me struggling there. I was like, "Oh, is this right?" But it's more intuitive because in the actual JSON schema, dynamic motion is controlled by 3 or 4 different components, which is insane. And parametric motions is controlled by 1. I feel like the way Snowstorm has it laid out is a lot better organized.
Yeah, I would say that's the case.
All right, let's see. I'm going to do 8.
I wish we could put entities in here because I'm imagining this as a taming.
Actually, I'm really glad I handed it off to you because my trackpad just died with no warning.
This looks terrible so far. There we go. Disk. That looks way better. So I'm going to use the same trick to scale the particles down. Maybe someone should throw this snippet into Discord because it's such a useful one. If you ever need to turn something into a percentage duration of how long the particle's been alive, that's the one for you.
Well, yeah, the reverse, right? Because when the particle's newly born, it'll be scaled to 1, and as it dies, it'll be scaled to 0.
Yeah, either or. So I don't hate this. Maybe I can show how to implement it into game because it's pretty easy. So if you've been working in the Snowstorm up on the web, you can do File, Download. It's going to save it wherever you want. In this case, I'm actually going to open it in VS Code. You probably actually can't see my screen anymore, right? Do I have to switch my streaming?
Yes.
Okay, I will do that. You'll get to see everything. Here we are. Does that work?
Yeah, I can see Discord and VS Code.
Okay, awesome. So to integrate a particle into VS or anywhere, really, it's just a single file. Unlike entities or blocks, there's not something in the resource pack and the behavior pack. Particles are only on the resource side. So you just need a file in your resource folder. And there we go. Oh. And I want to show one more thing. So for people who have VS Code, there is a Snowstorm plugin that is going to enable itself if it ever has a file called something.particle.json. And so here is the actual JSON of what we've just been building up on the Snowstorm website. And if I rename this file here, we're going to get Snowstorm in our editor. So that's cool. I guess I find it frustrating. You can kind of disable that on a particular particle by just not giving it a particular name. And you can always open to code as well if you need to. I don't think there's any integration into Bridge, but I could be wrong on that. Someone could correct me. Yeah, but that's actually all we need probably to get this working in game is that that particle file pulled down from Snowstorm. So compared to entities or compared to blocks or items.
Did you check the texture? Because sometimes when I download from Snowstorm, like the texture field or the identifier are missing.
Well, we'll see what happens. Okay. I'm prepared for this to go down in flames, but if you needed something to be annoyed about today, particles don't autocomplete. So you've got to remember exactly what you called it every time. There we go. Yeah, that works.
Okay,
we got some particles going on.
Like a bunch of spaceships taking off.
Yeah, so I actually should show you how to attach a particle to an entity because it's really easy. It just takes 2 or 3 files. So I have everything set up, and so we're just going to walk through that example, and we'll switch it from being like a fart to being those heart explosion that I created. Too many. Okay, so everything is pretty much in the resource pack. We'll start at the entity. So I have created a copy of the pig entity called WikiPig. The first thing that you have to do is you have to add your particle effects here and create a short name for it. And this is going to associate a new name for the particle within your RP entity file or the whole ecosystem around it. This is really common. You've already seen it happen with textures and geometry and materials and sounds. So we give a new name here called, I should just change this because this is a little bit silly. I don't want to say fart 10 times. So we got a hearts particle effect now. The next thing you have to do is you have to add a animation to your entity. And in this case, this is fine. It's the old name, but we have this animation here. You attach it, and then you would animate it within your scripts. So it's just like a bone animation. It's actually the same file format, and you can mix particles and bones together. Although I think that's pretty confusing. In the animations here, I already have one set up. I can actually paste this JSON to you so that you can have it for later if you want, because this is the thing that I think most people get caught up on.
Його інтонації, я його слухала перед тим, він давав інтерв'ю.
Can someone mute whoever's talking?
Oh.
Yeah, so here's the JSON for it. It's essentially, this is the only thing that matters. When you actually get down into a particular animation, you can give a timeline of the particle effects you want to play and when you want to play them. The 2 fields you care about, the first one is effect, and this is going to match, This is going to match the short name that you defined in the entity. And the second one is the locator, where you want to play that particle. A locator is I'll show you in the JSON first. A locator is in the geometry of the entity. And it just looks like this. It's a list of locators and a position. There's also support for it in Blockbench, which I will show you right now. And essentially that's all you need. So you play the particle by attaching it to the entity file, playing it via an animation, and then setting where within the geometry you want to play it. If I open this here.
So locators are like locations on individual bones, right? But like they have a shared name across the entire geometry.
Yeah.
It's like when it looks up that name, it just finds that locator within some bone.
Yeah. So this one is called, actually there's one already for the lead. So the lead position of where the leash will attach. And I also added one here called butt. The pig geometry looks weird. Don't worry about it. They tried to save some space on the texture by playing the bone via an animation. Is there anything on the pig that's very animated? Not really, right?
Question. Can you
go ahead.
specify the rotation of the particle from, like, if it's a billboard particle instead of like just a floating from, I guess, the emitter.
It takes the direct. So if you play it via a particle command, it's going to take the direction of the player that, like, the direction that you're facing. If you play it via a entity, it's going to take the direction of the entity into account. So it's going to face backwards towards you. But if you wanted it to face a different direction, you could do that. I don't believe you have the ability to change the rotation in the actual particle command, unfortunately.
The rotation of... I'm sorry, what? I couldn't hear.
Like if you wanted to place a billboard onto a sign, how would you get it to, like, snap correctly and have the rotation that you wanted?
I mean, like I was showing off, there is like the manual direction for like direction Z. But like it's not like aware of like which direction, you need it to actually run. You would have to like hard code like different particles facing different directions and like trigger each one depending on like which direction you're facing.
Well, I've created something terrible. I want to mention one thing actually that's really important. So there's a relationship between the entity animation looping time and the duration that your emitter is going to be active. So this number here, this loop delay, let's remove that and just have an animation length. So this is going to loop every 1 second. And the emitter that we have here, this hearts emitter, this emitter lifetime looping is active for 1 second. If we make this active for 10 seconds, you're going to actually notice a big problem where the animation here is so fast that it is creating multiple particle emitters. It's going to create 10 of them before the first one dies.
Oh, so that's why. Okay, that lines that up.
So what you really want is you probably want the emitter to match the length of the animation here. I haven't really seen what happens if you set this from looping to false and then set the animation length to an absurd amount, like 1,000,000 seconds. I don't recommend that. It probably is more performant in some ways, but I don't really trust what happens when the client logs in and logs back out again and all that kind of stuff. So I would normally pick this to be a short number here and then match that up with the emitter lifetime so that it's always creating one emitter fresh every second. That's just one thing to be aware of. Do we have other questions? I think I'm about done creating and or presenting. Feel free to unmute yourself or jump into the chat. And
I mean, I said I was going to go over like advanced effects, but I'm going to need to like set myself up differently, or maybe like do like a lazy presentation, like something informal, like somewhere during the week. Because I don't have much time left myself.
Yep, that's fine.
But essentially, the gist is that like Snowstorm doesn't support like particle effects, and particle effects can, you know, upon like particle creation or death, can, you know, trigger other effects like spawning another particle. They can play a sound, but you know, I had trouble getting some of the sounds to work. They can log stuff to the log file, and you can use any combination of those. You can randomize across like placing different effects. You can continue with velocity. So if you have like a firework particle, and it like a strand would reach like the end of its length, and it would die or whatever, it would expire, as they say. And you can like have it explode into subparticle effects, like in a particle hierarchy, like a tree. So that there's a lot that you can do there. Let me see if I have my so-called acid rain demo from Community Showcase recently.
I linked it in Particles.
Oh, you did? I missed it. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something important that I should probably show off at some point this week, because for the people that do know kind of the stuff that we showed off here today, they didn't get much out of it. But if you don't know about effects, that's definitely something. Events, I should say, that's definitely something I want to go over.
Yeah, so just maybe a bit of housekeeping, because it looks like we'll be ending the stream here in just a few minutes. So the rest of the week is technically sort of a particle jam. We'll all be hanging out in the particle channel, trying to answer questions and get people set up. In 7 days, I think, or 8 days, we're going to finish it off and show off as many particles as we can that the community created. So we'll open up the submissions channel in probably a couple of days here. And then you're encouraged to, create a particle for the first time, or create a new kind of particle, or just create something cool. Please submit it as a valid pack so that we can like process them in a reasonable amount of time. And that will be a lot more chill. We'll just hang out and play around in game.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be crazy. Like, seriously, if you've never made a particle before and you want to make something simple, don't think, oh, you know, everyone's done this before. Like, oh, there's a million fireworks or whatever. That's fine. Just getting you, like, some experience with Snowstorm is, like, a great deal. And, you know, seeing what you make. If you're a texture artist, you know, you can do a lot with particles and animating them or whatever with minimal math. Snowstorm will set you up without you having to, like, really think about a lot of things. But you can still, like, present your work in a cool way. So, yeah.
Any other last questions coming through? And Felska, feel free to drop out whenever you feel like. I'll drop out in a minute here. But I know we didn't really have time for questions. So if people have got more,
I've got to hop off the voice stream. But yeah, if anyone has questions here or oh, this is Particles. I thought we were in the other channel. I haven't been paying any attention. Yeah, just drop them here and I'll see if I can respond to them.
Jackson, Snowstorm was made by Janus, who is the developer for the Blockbench software. Oh, if anyone has a recording, feel free to send me a link to it, because I'll throw it up on my YouTube channel and then post it in the announcements so that people see it.
All right, well, awesome. I hope y'all got something out of that. I definitely did. Thank you, Litz, for explaining the locator stuff.
Oh, I should throw my my showcase that I did in Particles.
Yeah, and yeah. Wait, did you post the pack that you had composed?
Not yet. I can do that. If anyone is curious, here's something that I did with that entity locator stuff that I showed off. This is using entity locators paired with the box render that CC showed off to create sort of a particle-based entity. There's a real entity behind it.
Yeah, and I thought you would use. I don't know why I kept thinking it. You would use there's a shape mode that's even supported. I think in Snowstorm, right? Let me look real quick.
It's
yeah,
just
there
the
is.
bounding
There's
box of the
bounding
entity.
box, but
Yeah,
that doesn't give you enough detail to be able to pull off like the actual shape of the mob. So
Yeah, it's such a
let's
letdown.
use
It's just the actual
boxes.
box collision. It doesn't
Yeah.
have any of the geo.
I mean, I understand why that doesn't do that. Like particles, look, particles can do like almost anything. It's crazy. We've talked about this so many times. How much love and care has gone into the particle system by whoever made it. Like it can really do just about anything. And you'll see some crazy examples all over the place, and hopefully later this week too. Next week, I guess. But yeah, geometry like alignment and whatnot. That's not something that's in there.
Yeah, it's over. Ori Sanum.
All right,
We
I gotta
did it.
hop off.
Yeah, ciao.
Thank y'all for joining.